My name is Adewale Amani. I'm a principal at AWS ProServe. I lead our professional services organization around automotive and manufacturing. I'm based in DC. I'm really excited to be here to have this conversation with you and really understand exactly what things you guys are working on the automotive space. I'm here to talk to you about the AWS's approach to managing security across the auto ecosystem. Things that we do from a professional services where we look for and build the proverbial undifferentiated heavy lifting for our customers. So we work with a lot of customers where we build solutions for automotive customers across the automotive ecosystem. So at a high level, we're going to go very quickly and talk about some of the industry trends that we see across security in the automotive space, challenges that our customers are dealing with. I'm going to get into challenges and opportunities across the automotive ecosystem, and then have some conversations very quickly around some of the regulations and tensions that we're seeing across the space. There's the R155 that I presume you're familiar with that is coming down the pike. We really see it as an opportunity for innovation, for growth across the automotive ecosystem. And then lastly, things that we are doing from a AWS ProServe standpoint, where we build solutions for our customers, we obsess over their needs, and then work backwards around the challenges. Software-defined vehicles. This is one of the key drivers for growth across the board. Most of our customers, some of them are cloud native, some of them are more traditional. We've got customers that are born in the cloud where they're building solutions. On the average, an ECU on a car easily can go from 150 to some cases, we have cars with over 300 ECUs. And the lines of code keeps growing. And in a lot of cases, it's a differential advantage for our customers. Autonomous vehicles. There are 2 in every 3 consumers buying a car today have that expectation that their cars would be shared. So this is some of the growth drivers. For customers in this space, there's this reality where they feel comfortable with moving their data set from their mobile devices, coming into their cars and having that seamless transition. So it's been a pretty big space that we need to deal with. From a consumer experience standpoint, privacy is a big deal that we have to deal with as well. We see a space where it doesn't have to be a choice of picking privacy and security. It's a false dichotomy. So we need to build privacy-preserving principles in some of our solutions as we build solutions for our customers. And of course, smart manufacturing. We have customers that are still dealing with the IoT, IT, and OT challenges as well. So these are some of the big drivers that we're seeing across the space, and we're building with our customers solutions to really allow them to accelerate their growth. I mentioned earlier data privacy. It's GDPR, CCPA. These are concerns that we see with our customers. The fact that a car is bought and sold today, after it gets sold down the line, in a lot of cases, without the privacy-preserving principles, those data sets still live in those cars. And we've seen a lot of customers where there's been a ton of exposure. Tesla being one, GM, Hyundai, a lot of the big OEM customers, they've all seen massive breaches with not having proper security controls in place. Supply chain security is a big concern as well. As you know, some of the work that I did in my prior life, I came from a heavily regulated space. I came from the federal industry. I worked a ton with the NSA, DoD. At the time, we were looking to build solutions where you can quantifiably prove that systems, microprocessors that go into an ECU, you can quantifiably prove that it's not been tainted. So building in all the provenance, all the mechanisms to really give you the confidence that microchips going into ECUs, into DCUs that end up in a car are clean. They've not been compromised. So those are the kind of things that we're looking to build with our customers. So it's a big space. Customers are challenged, and they're looking for solutions around the space. Legacy systems, as I said earlier, we see a wide range of customers. There are again, born on the cloud customers, cloud-native customers, and there are customers that have been around for 100 years. So there's that tension around migrating workload to the cloud and all the security principles we need to bring into account as well. So it's a big space. And then lastly, the OTA security, over-the-air updates. We also have scenarios where customers have firmware over-the-air updates. So how do you build in encryption mechanisms to really cleanly send down data sets, push down data sets to customers across their fleet of vehicles? And in this space, it's pretty interesting, right? Where we have scenarios where if one car is compromised, there's a very likely plausibility that a fleet of vehicles, easily hundreds of thousands, can be compromised. So it's a big space. We're building solutions these challenges. And some of the things that we're doing, I think we feel like we're getting to a point where we can work with our customers to really build solutions that are really robust for them. I'm going to pivot very quickly into like the in-vehicle challenges that we see. The ECU, as I said earlier, on average, a modern vehicle sees easily over 100 million lines of code to what we're seeing today, to potentially 300 million lines of code. And as standard practice goes, for every 1,000 line of code, there's a 10% chance that 10% of that code is vulnerable to exploits. So thinking about all the practices, all the design considerations, the scanning, the patching, the whack-a-mole practices that we have to play to really make sure that that code is sound is one of some of the things that we deal with. Some stats here for you. The past year alone, we've seen over 400% increases in cyber threats across the automotive ecosystem. EV charging networks is a big lower barrier to where we're seeing some cases where there isn't a well thought out encryption authentication mechanisms for cars that are being charged right now. So there are some cars where you can easily just go into a charging port, connect into it, and not have a well thought out access control mechanism. So those are the kind of things that we're also building with customers, thinking about all the end-to-end security provenance to really give them a good sound feeling that their security is sound across as they build their automotive ecosystems. The other point here is there's been, in past year alone, a 35% increase in API attacks on auto vehicles as well. So thinking about all the design considerations around building AWS functionality to help with the API integration is another thing that we're working on as well. It's also important to talk about the risk, the reputational damages that's associated with some of those exploits that we've seen. So as I said earlier, the likes of Tesla, GM, Hyundai, these are some of the customers that have really been challenged with some of the hacks we've seen in the last few years as well. The repercussions are pretty significant. We're talking about things like recalls, the reputational damages, the brand damages, the lawsuits, the public image that comes along with things going sideways on customers as they build their solutions. And then I said earlier, again, like it's this the modern vehicle, it's not only just cars, it's safety. There are functional requirements that we have to build around. Things like 26262, where again, like in my prior world, when we protect systems, it's data sets that we're protecting. But in this case, if a car is compromised, there are lives at stake. People that we love that can potentially be harmed here. So those are the kind of things that we're thinking about in our line of work. And then I'm going to pivot very quickly into what we're seeing in the regulations space. In this space, there's always that tension between innovation and regulations. So as we say in cyber, is the proverbial who's involved, what they're doing. In this case, the big player that's really pushing the regulations and mandates in auto is the UNECE. They're based in Europe. Now, that they're asking for is to build, the mandate here is every automaker has to build a cybersecurity management system where all the processes, all the documentation, all the lineage of like your pre-prod, your system, your code is well documented. Now, what we don't see here is the how. There's no prescriptive guidance on exactly how to do it. So a lot of customers are still dealing with and struggling with exactly how to wrestle with this mandate. In the timeline, as you can see here, the regulations were announced back in 2020. By 2022, last summer, new vehicle types are required to comply with the mandate. And by 2024, all vehicles effectively need to be compliant with the standard. Right, so again, there's no prescriptive guidance, there's no framework. We see it as an opportunity in our space. We see like a lot of venture firms coming in to build solutions to address these regulations. Things like the Vehicle Security Operations Center. So for every car maker, you effectively need to build what we call a VSOC. And in my lifetime, my prior life again, like we build SOC for companies, and we don't necessarily see this as a novel idea. So we still see SOCs still existing, but ultimately building all the components where you bring the AI, ML models to really prove and identify proverbial needles in the haystack before CV, foreign exploits become something that actually harms someone while they're driving a car. So it's an opportunity for us and the customers in this space. Things like there's also a requirement here for software bill of material. You heard it on our during the call yesterday. We announced like a SBOM solution. So SBOM is pretty massive. So it's having provenance in your software, knowing exactly who built it, who shipped it, and who touched those lines of code. So these are some of the fundamental pieces that we think is an opportunity for growth for not only OEMs, but our partners and all the players in this space as well. And then lastly, from a regulation standpoint, there's been other regulations. There's Zero Trust, there's CDM, Continuous Diagnostics and Mitigation, RMF, and other standards that are out there. The reality is most companies still struggle with being compliant, but we see it as an opportunity for growth, for new lines of businesses, for new jobs, new positions, new services that are going to be built based on these regulations. So this brings us over now to the VSOC threat model. So it's the classic crawl, walk, and run. This is our take is out the way we see things to help build solutions for this space. We typically see this as a place where we first need to understand the problem statement. And it varies per customer. For some customers, they're still early in their maturity life cycle. They're not necessarily comfortable with the cloud, but it's understanding the problem statement, obsessing over their needs, and then for us, it's walking backwards from their point of need. And typically, it's collecting those data sets, and as I said earlier, it's pre-production all the way through post-production. It's understanding those data sets. And then the next step in our life cycle is to understand and train models, where again, it's bringing in code. In a lot of cases, understanding the kind of algorithms you need to bring in to understand what does that threat look like before it becomes like an issue for you. And it's bringing in all those AI algorithms. We still need to determine exactly what algorithm we pick before we can allow the VSOC engineers to help and identify playbooks. And then lastly, we bring in things like Code Whisperer. You heard during the keynote conversation yesterday with CJ Moses. Code Whisperer is an AI model, generative AI solution where developers, agents can actually speak to code and allow you to generate code to address some of the vulnerability concerns we're seeing in our space as well. And then ultimately, the last step in this process here is to how do you quickly deduce the noise, how do you reduce the noise, how do you remove the false positives, how do you quickly enforce playbooks where engineers can say, hey, we see a potential CVE, a CWE, a vulnerability in a particular line of code for a car. How do we quickly take that car, how do we take that code from the fleet? So those are the kind of things that we're seeing. Engineers that work in SOC are pretty specialized. They're, in my mind, they're artisans. They have tools that they're comfortable with. They're tools and services that we may not even call out, like things like Kali, that they prefer to work with. So understanding how those things work, codifying that, and then giving them a playbook where their AI models that allows them to automate the solutions are some of the things that we're bringing into account for a lot of our customers. And also, I didn't mention Code Guru. Code Guru, again, is one of the functionality that we're thinking allows us, our engineers to quickly automate the solutions where they can understand, reason, and learn over time. I wanted to bring in this reference architecture. So this is kind of things this is the model that we pulled together around how we see this working. Again, it's being able to collect data feeds from the vehicles, telemetry feeds from the cars. In a lot of cases, we're using things like IoT FleetWise. And in some cases, we're using services that are not necessarily intentionally designed to achieve these requirements. But over time, as this requirements grows, as R155 evolves, we're comfortable that we're going to build additional services to allow us to collect those feeds from cars. In the middle of the box here is the process where you're ingesting all those logs and analyzing them in real time. And then down here, we see things like, because right now it's very siloed. We don't necessarily have feeds from supply chain, from your downstream suppliers, tier 1, tier 2 suppliers. Being able to collect that information, giving that information to engineers where they're using things like SageMaker. We also have a customer right now where they're building a solution where they're bringing in a managed blockchain functionality into their pipeline as well, where it's hey, tell me where this code has been with immutable confidence, with quantifiable confidence that you can actually do this. And then lastly, as I said earlier, this is a step down, right, where how do we enforce playbooks to allow you to quickly execute on some of those principles that we talked about so far. And lastly, so this is the way we engage. It's a three-step model. We start with our customers' challenges. We understand exactly what they're working on, and then obsess over them, over some of their needs. And it's a maturity roadmap that we typically use. We bring in our experts that are intimately familiar with the problem statements. We work with them. And then lastly, we do what we call a security orientation roundtable. And what it typically means is like they bring in their people, they bring in their consultants, the engineers, the data scientists that are familiar with the workloads they're working on. And then we do those sessions. We understand exactly what they're working on and then work backwards from their needs. And typically, it's a three-step outcomes that come out of this. It's building and understanding exactly what their challenges are and then working backwards. The next step is, again, it's to prioritize exactly what they're looking to accomplish. In some cases, it's a tactical, hey, we need to get something fixed. In a lot of cases, in my mind, it's a long-term strategic roadmap of exactly what it looks to accomplish. And then lastly, we align with our AWS people. We bring in the right experts to those conversations, and then we build a roadmap to implement those changes that we're looking to work with them on. I think it's also behooves us to talk about some of the customers we're working on in this space. From BMWs to Rivian to Toyota, this is some of the OEM Tier 1 suppliers that we're actively engaged with from the professional services standpoint. And then it goes down the vertical as well. There are a ton of Tier 1 suppliers. And as I said earlier, this new regulation, as it takes effect next year, we need to be compliant with them. So we are actively engaged with some of these customers as well. And then lastly, I think it's important to just stress the fact that security by design is critical in everything we do. Security is important, particularly in automotive. It's going to be a discriminator for a lot of our customers. Without a well-thought-out security strategy, a lot of customers are going to fall to the wayside. And again, we're excited about what's coming. There's going to be opportunities for independent assessors to play very actively in this space. There's going to be a whole new set of encryption algorithms that get built to be compliant with what we're saying in the space. And then lastly, there's an opportunity where we really get to build and do really mind-blowing things with a lot of our customers. So it's a super exciting space. Just wanted to call out some of the things we're seeing here. And then lastly, some of the things that actually enable growth is this industry collaboration that we're doing. So being part of the Auto ISAC, if you're familiar with the Auto ISAC, it's a consortium where all the security leaders in automotive all share thoughts around what's going on in the space. And then lastly, training. We can't quite stress enough how important training is. It's one thing for security leaders to have a strategy, but it's also important for them to be able to disseminate that culture across the board. As we say, culture is strategy for breakfast. So it's important to quickly instill the security culture across all the verticals with some of our automotive customers. I'll leave you with this last quote. Again, it's always day one for us. We're always excited about building with our customers, and it's really what gets us up every day to work with some of with the challenges our customers are dealing with. With that, I want to say thank you for your time. Really enjoyed having you guys listen to my conversation today. I'm going to be here for the rest of the day. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take any questions or have more dialogues around things that you're seeing in your patches. Thank you.